We will now sing the national anthem. There's a lot of excitement in the room. I think when I saw the drums, I got very, very excited. So welcome the registrar, the deans, deputy deans, all our staff in CHS, staff from other faculties, the family and friends of Prof van der Westhuizen, and to all our students, a very, very warm welcome this evening. I'm going to call on the Dean of our faculty to come and do the official welcome, Professor Anita Padmanapanuni.
Good evening, Registrar, fellow Deans, and members of the Senior Management Committee, colleagues. Sorry. Colleagues, students, and it's a good thing this seminar is about music and the creative arts. Okay, let's try again. Okay, we're good to go. All right, good evening, colleagues, students, and especially a warm welcome to the friends and family of Professor Marichen van der Westhuizen. I was wondering if the friends and family could please stand so we could warmly welcome you. Oh, there's a lot. I was told that some of Professor van der Westhuizen's friends have traveled from far away to be with us today, and that truly is an honor and a recognition of her work and also the relationships that she has sustained and their meaning. So it is my pleasure to welcome you to this fourth and final inaugural lecture for this academic year of the Faculty of Community and Health Sciences. Inaugural lectures are among the most significant milestones in an academic's career. They mark the attainment of full professorship and they provide a platform to reflect on a scholarly journey, to share a vision of ongoing academic inquiry, and to affirm the contribution of research and teaching to the public good. This evening, we are honored to celebrate such a moment with Professor Marichen van der Westhuizen. Professor van der Westhuizen's academic and professional trajectory is deeply rooted in a commitment to human dignity, community empowerment, and inclusive development. Her early life was shaped by the complexities of growing up in a small town in apartheid-era South Africa. It instilled in her a profound awareness of social injustice and a passion for the expressive arts. Growing up, she experienced a sense of safety within her home environment, where she was surrounded by the love and support of her parents and her family, who encouraged and sustained her. But at school, she found that freedom faded. She often felt unheard, unseen, and out of place. It's no surprise then that her career has been all about helping others find their voice, especially those who've long been silenced or overlooked. Her formative experiences laid the foundation for a career that has spaces, both within the classroom and in the broader community context, resonates strongly with the faculty's mission. By situating artistic expression as a legitimate form of inquiry, she has opened pathways for transdisciplinary collaboration, especially in fields such as social work, community development, education, and public health. In this way, her scholarship exemplifies the transformative potential of the university to not only generate knowledge, but to reimagine what it means to teach, to learn, and to belong. The theme of this evening's lecture, which draws on joint artistic creativity and activity as a medium for personal and social transformation, is particularly timely. In a society that is marked by historical divisions and contemporary challenges, the call to reimagine community through creative and participatory practice is both relevant and essential. And we all look forward to today's inaugural lecture with Prof van der Westhuizen, and I welcome you.
Thank you, Prof. Padmanabhanuni. I can't help but smile when I look at Marichen every time. You just look so nervous. I'm going to call on Prof. Sukker, who is our Deputy Dean of Community Outreach and Clinical Engagement, to come and introduce Prof. van der Westhuizen.
Good evening, everyone. I can definitely see that we're saving the best for last. We've got such a beautiful turnout of colleagues and students. Welcome you all. So I must say that I do think that we're in the midst of a celebrity, because I was studying Prof. van der Westhuizen, I think it was last week sometime. Well, no, it was on Monday, that while I was driving home, I heard on Fine Music, the radio, the channel, and they were mentioning van der Westhuizen, van der Westhuizen. And I'm thinking, oh, what's happening here? And they said, this colleague is having this inaugural speech this week at UWC. And thought, wow, it's the first time I hear a colleague on this radio station. She must be a celebrity. And here we can see. So it's a real honor to be here today in the midst of our celebrities. So good evening, colleagues, deans of the various faculties, as well as colleagues and individuals that's witnessing this event online. And a special good evening to Professor van der Westhuizen, as well as her family. I was given the honor of introducing an abstract of the inaugural lecture of Professor van der Westhuizen. The title of her lecture this evening is Social Work and the Arts, a Transdisciplinary Process for Promoting Creativity, Self-Expression, and Social Cohesion. As an introduction, Professor van der Westhuizen proclaims that social work is both a practice-based and academic discipline directed at the empowerment of people, social cohesion, and social change. In accordance with this description, her presentation reports on transdisciplinary work and research to empower individuals through artistic self-expression and to promote social inclusion and cohesion through joint artistic activities. Joint music making serves as an example to report on the outcomes of various projects. These projects focused on participating students' personal and professional development, as well as the social impact of artistic community engagement projects. Working from a hermeneutics perspective, the appreciative inquiry model is presented as a practice framework to enhance the social dimensions of joint music making in learning and teaching activities. And these are intended for preparing students from various disciplines to facilitate artistic community engagement and projects to promote social inclusion and cohesion. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome to our guest of honor this evening, Professor Marichen van der Westhuizen.
So it's now more intimidating since I'm a celebrity. Registrar, Institutional Management, Deans, Professor Padmanabhanini, and my dear colleagues in my home faculty of Community and Health Sciences, and then my colleagues in my department, my students that we teach. Thank you for being here. Department of Social Service Professions. My friends and my family. Wow, what a moment for me to share this with you. I brought some tissues. Also those people watching online, voting for me, cheering me on. I'm standing here thinking why I joined UWC and Prof. Schenk. At that time I spoke to you. Thank you for that discussion as well. And I entered these gates on the 3rd of January 2019 with definite hopes and aspirations. And now I'm standing here, obviously overwhelmed, but I'm incredibly humbled and incredibly grateful. UWC is my academic home. And for me to present social work and the arts is a special moment in my career. I think as I go along in my lecture, you will also understand what it means when I said UWC is my academic home. So I would like to first start, I must make sure I've got this right, yes. I will start by explaining why I chose this topic for this lecture. I will talk about the transdisciplinary work and research that I've been involved with, and now I really feel old, because this I've worked on for more than 13 years across the disciplines of social work, arts and theology, and interinstitutional and international framework. I want to say a specific thank you to the University of Applied Sciences in Bochum, Germany, who really opened their doors for me to learn about this, and they supported us all the way. I've also got a lot of support from the other spaces, Hermeneutics College, University of Pretoria until recently, UNISA, University of Stellenbosch, and of course, UWC. I will then move on to present the outcome of our work through a theoretical framework and a practice framework. And then, as you can see, I would like to share some practice examples with you, and I would like to talk to you about the potential outcomes of social work and the arts. So, why social work and the arts? I could imagine that some people might have thought or expected that I would present the treatment and aftercare of substance use disorders among adolescents. It's been my focus since before I entered academia. On Monday evening, Prof. Florence spoke about, or she centralized, the quality of life in SUD treatment. I believe social work and the arts can create spaces to promote quality of life in various settings, but also in treating SUDs. So I'm going to give a little bit of context, otherwise I might confuse everybody. Our interest in our work was in social context, meaning that we were looking at bringing individuals from diverse backgrounds together in a social group. We did not only focus on them doing artistic activities and developing artistic products, but we were very much interested in facilitating processes where, 3 words, creativity, expression, and social cohesion would be experienced. I call these core elements of positive social engagements, and I will refer to that quite a bit. The experiences in such a group is... Oh, sorry. As a subjective experience right now as well. People experience a sense of this was good and I was part of something that is really good. And it's not dependent on an external audience or a judgment or an assessment. It's not a competition. It's just an experience. We worked on 3 different projects over many years and we repeated them. One is bringing it into the classroom. Another one is, and we have some students who've experienced this, inviting students with artistic talents and interest to join us outside of the classroom. Some of these students will testify that that's quite an experience. We have invited students at UWC or at Hermeneutics College earlier on, and then also at our partner university in Bochum, Germany. These students would then follow a specific process that I will later present at their home universities, and then we would join them as a big group. And then they had to follow this process again. And then we moved on to the 3rd project, taking it into the communities. So within this framework, I want to just briefly touch on what our experiences were. In terms of creativity, we saw how the participants became incredibly innovative, out of the box, and creative when they had to find solutions for challenges and problems that they were experiencing during the course of these projects. Because everybody had to participate and provide input and give a contribution to the final product, everybody got the chance to express themselves. And because it's the arts, everybody could decide how they want to express themselves. They learned to share, to express. They had a wonderful experience of being heard, and then they had to learn to also listen and hear the others. Which brings me to social cohesion. Through the inclusion of everybody's contributions in these projects, the participants experience that they are significant, that they matter, that they're important, and that they contributed to something beautiful. And that led us to many times witness a beautiful sense of belonging and a bonding, social bonding that one normally don't really see in our social context. So my thesis for this evening is when a person experiences these 3 elements in a social context, then they become brave enough because somebody has their backs, and they have become brave enough to explore their own potential and to start developing it, and they build self-confidence. I base this on the research outcomes that I'm presenting, but at this point I would like to step out and also say that this thesis is also based on my own personal experiences. And now I might need the tissues. I want to acknowledge my family. Anybody that knows my parents will know they represent these very core elements. They brought it into our family. Me, my brother, our spouses, cousins, and the children in the family benefited from that. Thomas, Michelle, Denise, Jan, Nadia, Johan, Ilna, thank you for being a part of that family, and thank you for being here. I'm very happy that my parents are watching online, and I'm also happy that Nikki, Stephanie, and Shirley is also joining us online. Then, my friends. I went to university. I had to leave my home, and I really wanted my parents to take me back with them. I didn't want to stay at Stellenbosch, but on that very first day, I met wonderful friends. They became so much more than my friends. They became my social resource. I don't know how to thank you. Nan, Ute, Annelie, Paula, and my beloved goddaughter, Lara. Thank you for gracing me. That's a fun, with your presence in my life. And then on a professional level, I've been influenced by the communities where I worked in. I believe I was well trained and well prepared to enter practice, but I do believe that my actual forming, how I got shaped as a social worker and as an academic, happened in the field. I carry those communities in my heart. The work that I do, I hope it's some form of saying thank you for what I've learned in those communities. And then before I move on, I started my accidental academic career at Hermeneutics College. And there I learned about collegiality. I've also learned about leadership through example, leading through example. And I want to single out Mariana de Jager. She was my first HOD. She became the HOD here at my home department. She was also my supervisor, together with Professor Alpaslan, for my postgraduate studies. And often I am aware how she keeps on guiding me. And then lastly, Ignatius Swart, you're to blame. Many years ago, you saw potential in me. You gave me opportunities. One of these opportunities was social work and the arts. I will be eternally thankful to you. He's now the head of the Department of Religion and Theology here at UWC, and I hope we will continue connecting and working together. So in 2008, Mel Gray and Webb wrote about social work and the arts, and they explored this whole topic of the social in the arts. And they essentially argued for transdisciplinary work and to integrate this in practice and in education. And that was 2008. And now here I am in 2025, and I want to talk about the intersection between the arts and social work. It's also true actually for theology. My focus is just now on social work and the arts. We have a shared interest in social change, positive social change. And the potential of the arts as a social activity is that individual and collective expressions that end up being products can contribute to creating awareness of social issues, experiences, social concerns, and it can actually advocate for positive change. When we look at the potential of using creative arts in social work, in 2025, a publication by Redcliffe and Hatton focused on various forms of the arts in social work. And these editors concluded and they said that this has the potential to break new grounds towards social justice, empowerment, and development. It also has the potential for us to use so that people can have a variety of forms of non-verbal communication and forms of expression. And working in groups, it can foster social connections and cohesion. So social work as a practice-based profession responds to the needs of vulnerable people. And we aim to advance intra and interpersonal wellness or well-being. We want to promote social change that includes social inclusion and cohesion, and we value the reciprocity between people and the environments, very close to those core elements that I spoke about. Then, when we talk about vulnerability, it often happens when people do not have a say in matters that has to do with that. That's very true for many people in our country. They're being silenced and they become powerless because of that exclusion. And importantly, that is when potential cannot bloom and flower. That is when people sometimes don't even know that they do have potential. And in a response to that, we focus on empowerment interventions in social work. And social work and the arts is just that. We stimulate not only participation and inclusion, and tick, tick, you were here. We actually want you to actively participate. And that is aimed at reaching potential, to increase confidence, and for people to experience that they are valued, that they are worthy, and that they are included. Again, the core elements. So, moving on to linking social work and the arts. So we know that arts are used to help people to address their vulnerabilities. We've seen it, we've read about it, we know that. When we do shared artistic activities, we go one step further, because we work with people and not for people. And that in itself is empowerment, even emancipating in nature. So different forms of arts that have been identified as potentially contributing to innovative social work practices have been drama, photography, painting, storytelling, dance, creative writing, and music. I will be focusing on shared music making, and that has been the primary focus of my work. So the potential value of shared music making has, remember, social group, human collaboration, and connectivity. We address language, cultural, and personal barriers that impact not only communication, but also relationships. We give people diverse offerings to say something, to be heard, and to hear. So we spoke about, or I indicated that we've taken this into the classroom, and arts that are used in the classroom include photo voice, poetry, creative journaling, creative arts projects, theatre, and I have to stop here. I had the privilege to supervise 2 postgraduate students, Marichen van Heerden on storytelling, Henriette Weber on making music together. Both of them found that there is a connection between bringing it into the classroom and providing students with knowledge, understanding, and skills to take this into the field. While we teach students through this, they become able to reflect and deal with their own positionality, able to form identity, personal and professional, make creative decisions and solve problems creatively and innovatively, and to become able to develop skills to work not only in groups, but with groups. So moving on to advantages when we take it also into the field, there are very particular advantages for both the students or social workers doing that. I actually can testify how I've grown just by facilitating this process. And that would firstly be they start using internal resources, work with what they have. They also develop leadership skills, they learn to collaborate, they learn to celebrate when they achieve something, and the products they develop is a perfect place to be able to celebrate. They follow processes to make meaning of these experiences, and they become aware of themselves and of others. So now I want to share some examples. This took place in a classroom. The first one is photography. I asked students to bring photos to the class to express something that is really concerning them in their own lives. In this photo, a student showed us the dragon you chase will be the reason you burn down your family's place. He was expressing a concern of his siblings' SUD. And then the first time I brought it into a classroom was in 2012, and I was very unsure of myself. But then at that point, I asked the students afterwards to, in any creative way, give me feedback. And one student shared a poem, and when she shared it with me, she said, "I feel so validated, and I feel that I can mean something. I can contribute something." And she wrote this poem in 2012. I'm just going to read the first two verses, so lines there. I am a phenomenal woman, an African woman, and I wonder how the world will be without me. Going towards more recent work that I've done last year, in the second project where we invited students to join us outside of the classroom, students provided us with a variety of forms of what they brought to the table. Michaelan, Canadian, thank you that I am allowed to share this. The one is performing arts and the other one is dancing. So let's see if I can get it go. Sound, please. I have to stop. If somebody can just say, the sound is really important here. Can I try again? No? Okay, you're still quiet. Still no. Apologies. be quiet on the screen here and try and stop this. Okay. Let me give it one more try. I'm going to give it one more try. It's not working, so hopefully I can share this at a later stage. Yeah, what I want to say is it's a powerful presentation by Michaelan and a powerful presentation here by Avian. Maybe just show you a little bit before I continue. So, that's the problem with transdisciplinary technology, and I will do something live later. I want to start talking about transdisciplinary work and my research, and here I have to step out. I have to say, and this is again a tissue moment, I don't know, Thomas Broyle, how to thank you for your generosity to share what you know with me, for your openness to learn about what I knew, and your willingness to learn with me along the way. Dr. Nadia van Willig, you saw how this topic grabbed me, and you gave me spaces and opportunities and support so that I could start pursuing it. I'm not too sure where I would have been if you did not give me that opportunities at that time. Professor Jacques Beekers, my respondent this evening, and Professor Christa Tesna from University of Stellenbosch, they just got what we wanted to do, and they actually just joined us in our search to conceptualize this. But more importantly, I think what stood out of this work was that we wanted to make it work in practice. We didn't just want to write an article on this. We wanted it to work. And that joined our work and our way of thinking at the time. So we worked from a participatory approach. And what happened was that, I think my colleagues will forgive me when I say, actually I would have had nothing to present if it wasn't for the impact of students over many years and the communities where we placed these projects in. These people were telling us what they were doing, what their experiences were, what worked for them, what didn't work for them. They gave us advice and guidance, and they shaped the end results. I'm very sure that it is their work, and we just help them on their way. So the process, as I mentioned, had to do with co-learning, and once we knew that our shared interest was in social inclusion and cohesion through joint music making in diverse contexts, and then we were able to pre-develop a project. And here I have to make a confession. So normally when you pilot something, you do it and then you refine it and there you go. But the data we received from students as well as from colleagues and from especially the communities made it impossible to get a pilot study to be just a pilot study. So we did this, we piloted this in 2013, again in 2014 and again in 2016. We wanted to really know what this process should look like, what the techniques should be, and how we should facilitate this. And we really did get all the information from everybody that participated. So while we were piloting, we kept ourselves also busy conceptualizing what we were doing. We wanted to discover what frameworks would fit, and we also then, thank you UWC and the University of Applied Sciences in Bochum, we were able to implement the final project last year, and so then we could move on to analyze what we've learned and develop a practice framework. Just summing up here, the value for me of this transdisciplinary research was that we worked as equals. We produced knowledge across our disciplines. It wasn't just mine, so we learned much deeper, I think. And I believe we have the potential to connect and impact these disciplines. The inclusion, as I mentioned, of students and communities meant that we could really develop a shared understanding, but more importantly for me as an academic, it drew a link between abstract or academic knowledge and production, and very specifically the link was with practice-specific knowledge, production, indigenous knowledge, what the people gave us. So the theoretical frameworks, because meaning-making took place throughout our projects, hermeneutics was obvious, a theoretical perspective to include. But then we found the appreciative inquiry model, or AIM, to be incredibly descriptive and to show us when to do what. It gave us a really colourful structure. And then Thomas Groyle identified social dimensions of making music together, and we were able to, through those dimensions, really identify relevant activities to facilitate, to get to creativity, self-expression, and cohesion. So the hermeneutics perspective, as we know, is helping people to understand how they see something right now, how they feel about it, how they think about it, and how they respond to it. And then through a new experience, they get to explain it, and they get to interpret it, and they get to reconstruct it. But for us, it didn't really work because we were looking for a group sense-making. And then we found Harris's hermeneutical loop. He actually, interestingly, built this on Joseph Clark's The Hero's Journey, and that was developed as a process for storytelling. So it came from a creative place. I'm going to not spend too much time on this whole picture, but what I wanted to highlight is there are a couple of standout moments, and eventually we found them to be four. The first one is the call for adventure. This is where participants were able to join willingly. They had to think why they are joining, they had to think what they can contribute, they had to become aware of each other. We call it coming from the known. Then you have, according to Harris, a moment where people exit or they start becoming resistant. In our case, it never happened, but we did see that people became unsure or uncomfortable. Then, through the activities going on and exploring, the road of trials began. This we called into the unknown. And interesting, they moved towards consolidation, that is what Harris calls it, into a space where they build friendships, they learn what works, what doesn't work, they learn to figure out challenges that they are experiencing, they get into a product that celebrates everybody. We call it moving from the unknown and then into the known, the return to everyday life. Harris then says that at this point, people find it difficult to leave the process. I see it as a wonderful sign that it could be sustainable in nature, because it means people can stay in these relationships, and positive relationships that can be long-term in nature. So I have to share this. In 2013, we had a student who participated, and in 2015, he flew to Germany to be the best man of a colleague that he met in such a project, which I thought was very sweet and special. And then we discovered the appreciative inquiry model. This model was built for corporate teams, basically, but it fitted our work very well because the group collectively looks at who they are as individuals, they look at who they are as a collective, and they look at where they want to go. And there are 4 phases, and I'm going to briefly just link them to the hermeneutical loop. The first one is discovery of what is at the moment, the known, dream of what could be, moving into the unknown, design what could and should be, moving from the unknown to destiny, to consolidate and integrate what you've learned into your life. When we facilitate this, we specifically focus on positive intent and trust. The musical activities really gave a wonderful platform for dialogue, the reflective activities for meaning making and communication between the participants. They were also encouraged to find a common vision for what is best for all of us, everybody. We focused a lot on accelerated contextual learning. It's actually, all it is celebrating the small victories experience. And we wanted, and we saw it, to unite people in new, jointly envisioned, supportive and meaningful relationships. And at this point, I want to present the social dimensions of making music together, and while the technology really failed me, I think a live performance could maybe help me out. Students, come on. Just while they're coming, I want to clarify something. This is not a performance. They met last week, and we had a session, a music making session, and they are meeting now for the second time to make music together. Enjoy yourselves, guys, and enjoy. college people didn't want to have classrooms in the near of where I did my classes. The reason is clear. The social dimensions are lived experiences. They're wonderful, joyous moments in lives that are not always easy. You would have seen that the students came in a very special kind of contact. It's not a normal type of contact. It's joyous. They are included. They belong. And Professor Padma Banuni, I know you write about this. It's a very special way to address loneliness. Cooperation, they had to cooperate. They had to have a common goal. We're going to make music. They had to focus on each other. They had to see who will do what. Lawton grabbed the drum and jumped around and gave us some energy. Marichen, you encouraged us. The rest of you were powerful. Everybody was needed for this experience. Also you, who were part of the group. It's a special kind of social activity to hear. I always think I worry about my eyes because we do not just hear. We have to understand and we have to see and to feel. And this is a very special way of enhancing hearing. It is really needed because you need to hear what the others are doing, to cooperate and coordinate what you're doing. And here I come to my two favorite ones of the social dimensions. Music making follows a timeline with a common beat, pulse, and groove. So people start synchronizing. We all synchronized physically what we've done. It's a special kind of contact because we smile and we have the same beat. Importantly, you can be different, but following the same beat, you synchronize. So we had different things happening according to the same beat, and that brings me to affect attunement, also known as emotional synchronicity. It means that we tune into each other on a different level. It's also known as affect attunement. My favorite word is, though, copathy. It's a beautiful word of saying we are in this moment together. Last two things, I think it's clear, everybody's equal, there's nobody being exceptionally super here. We're just a bunch of people having a joyful experience making music together. It has to do about the activity and us doing it together. And then I don't think I have to say much about social cohesion. If you experience all of that, it's a special kind of belonging. And it increases cohesion that could become the foundation of new relationships. So I'm going to the last part, so please just be patient a little bit while still. I'm not going to really talk about the link between the AIM and the hermeneutical loop now. I want to specifically refer to the social dimensions. In the beginning, contact is there and hearing is there. The second phase, when you start dreaming and you realize that there's no competition, we're equal, I'm good the way I am, then you can cooperate and work together easier. The third round, you will see that the social dimensions are all present, and then in the last one, they really become more intense. So my students who joined the project last year, will you agree with me when I say that doing it on our campus was great? When you did it with your colleagues from Germany, it was even greater. But doing it in our project made it incredibly intense. Am I right? They said, say yes, not really loud. So it expands as the process goes along, but it's back to hermeneutics. The more you do it and the more you repeat it, the more meaning you can make. In terms of personal development, this what we found not only among students but also community members that participated. Self-assurance. Man, you see a shy person just shine in these projects. Feelings of being accepted and valued. Understanding that your own background is the foundation for where you are going. Very powerful. And then on a professional development stage, my colleagues from the Department of Social Service Professions, you will be very happy to hear. Our students refer to the theories we teach them in the classroom. They would name them and explain, and I would say, so how do you think, why? And they are really getting these theories. And it's amazing for me to see that or hear that. They also, can you believe this, link what they do to the BSW standards. That is a really great feeling for me. Most importantly, they understand, they leave these projects knowing that they shouldn't do this for people. The people we work with must be central in everything we plan, we do, we evaluate, we refine. They must be central. So I'm ending off with why social work and the arts. I agree with you, Thomas, when you said in 2019 that if you include all of these dimensions in our activity, that is social work. That resonates with our very core mandate. And then I'm going to ask the questions that Willingham asked in 2016. So if we have students with artistic talents and interest in social work, how are we going to make sure that these talents are being developed through proper education? The next question, so now they have these skills developed, how are they going to be prepared to take it into our communities? How are we going to make sure and enhance artistic rigor while we are also cultivating empathy, inclusivity, and hospitality? At this point, I'm going to be very arrogant. I do think we did find the answers to how. We know what those answers are. The next step is what must be done to ensure that this is purposefully included in our classrooms, in our curriculum, and transferred to our communities, where creativity, the need to express, to be heard, and to make meaning, and to be included, and to be valued, is so needed. I pledge my commitment to search and to find. How are we going to do what to do now? I will find that way. I thank you.
Wow, wow. Professor van der Westhuizen, we are all so excited. I think what you spoke about and what you demonstrated was just absolutely phenomenal. And last week I was in a panel discussion at a conference where they asked us as deputy deans, what kind of ecosystems can we develop to promote exactly this in the research that we did. And last night we had a meeting with our postgraduate students, and I had a master's student in psychology come and do a talk on reflexivity in her study. But what was fascinating was she brought art into how she was reflecting and what she was reflecting on, and to help her to deal with the trauma that she was faced with her participants. So the excitement for me is looking at the intersection of arts, spirituality, science, and through that, the healing. So we thank you. I'm now going to invite the respondent to come and have your say. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, of goeienaand, good evening, good afternoon, goeiemiddag, goeienaand. Sawubona. Molo. Assalamu alaikum. And the students here are aware. All protocol observed. Professor Marichen van Westhuizen, thank you for inviting me to celebrate this milestone and achievement together with you. I'm so happy to be here, really. We are colleagues and we are still colleagues, but we are also family. You can see the resemblance. We're drinking from the same glass. We are family and I still call her Nuggie, my cousin. We are friends, but we're also each other's biggest cheerleaders. You go, go. We have journeyed together for almost 2 decades, Marichen, together with Prof. Inaugural, and then also Dr. Marichen Willig, and then also Professor Thomas Prof. And we have worked together and we have published together. The social worker and the theologian, professor in Christian spirituality. There has for centuries been a very close connection between social work and theology and religion, especially academically, yes, but also on other levels of life. Back in the days, many moons ago, theologians, reverends, pastors, religious leaders, they tend to marry social workers. Or should I say that social workers decided to say yes to these religious leaders. But I would like to show appreciation for social work. Not just because I'm also married to a social worker, who's now an educator, but because social work is valuable in theology and religion. It provides practical, ethical framework for expressing faith-based values like compassion, social justice, and service to others. The value of your research for theology, and I think Thomas can say something, the value of your research for arts as well. But for theology, although you have focused more on the arts than theology in your paper tonight, which I value very much, as a theologian, I would also just briefly like to highlight the transdisciplinarity or the transdisciplinary principles from a theological point of view, as theology was also part of some of your projects over the years. Working with Marichen for almost 2 decades, publishing with her as a social worker, but also publishing with my wife as a social worker, the value of social work within the discipline of theology, religion, and even Christian spirituality became more and more evident. The value of social work in theology includes the historical link, number 1. The origins of social work are rooted in religious institutions. Number 2, practical social work manifest service and advocacy. The ethical and a professional structure of credible Christian love and charity in a system of civility and commitment to human rights. Foundation for social justice aligns directly equity. Both disciplines are core values such as of a person. And then the last one, holistic approach. The integration of social work and theology allows for a more complete and holistic approach to service that address the social, psychological, and spiritual needs. This approach approaches that all disciplines involved in learn from each success, in other words, conduct research on grassroots level, and to develop services. And then a key component is the voices of the recipients of such services. We saw this evening as well, which you have highlighted so beautifully through this demonstration, but also those video clips. And not limited to an academic discourse. In this regard, our African policies acknowledge the social issues of intolerance, of violence, of poverty, etc., etc. The implementation of principles such as participation, collaboration, and cooperation is actually critical. The transdisciplinary approach, therefore, places the focus on a bottom-up approach when developing curricula and curricular content, which should impact service delivery, intervention, and care. So, additionally, all those involved in the transdisciplinary team must be willing to share knowledge and skills in etc., teaching each other, and to learn from other disciplines to develop a unique understanding of the context. In your research. Let me briefly touch on the next heading of my response, which read as follows: Cape Coons, arts, and contextual resource. Now, for the arts section in your research, in line with what Professor van der Westhuizen put forward, just to illustrate the value of our research, I would also like to bring our attention to the local context here in Cape Town, with the history and the origin of the Cape Coons. The Cape Coons known as the Kaapse Klopse. And I was also a member of the Kaapse Klopse, believe it or not, when I was skinnier. But the Cape Coons and the Kaapse Klopse, they originated from the New Year's Day celebrations of slaves in Cape Town, which date back to the 1700s. And then they sang moppies as a form of subtle, humorous, social commentary during the struggle against inequality and apartheid, narrating stories through song and music to critique the regime and then express the identity in a way that was disguised as mere entertainment. The Cape Coons also illustrate how music like the moppie as art express their views, their emotions, but also the socio-political context of their time. They also illustrated that joint music making may contribute to creative self-expression and the fostering of social connection and cohesion, and therefore also what I would call a form of social work. The Cape Coons Kaapse Klopse is a form of social work. It might be the title of a new article. As they illustrated their resilience despite adversity, although humorous, through music is a coping mechanism. In other words, it also becomes storytelling and a contextual resource. Storytelling, as an interpretive approach to narrative inquiry, can contribute to the body of knowledge for Africanized academic work. This also includes music, dance, photography, and other forms of art as methods to address language barriers and to contribute to a non-threatening space for sharing stories. The story becomes an object of study, focusing on how individuals or groups make sense of events and actions in their lives. Narrative inquiry in the form of storytelling serves as a strategy where members of a community not only reflect on the painful past and present challenges, but are also afforded an opportunity to develop a vision for a better future. And this is exactly what you are saying, that this type of research can lead to social cohesion, social inclusion, and social justice, etc. With regards to social work has both a therapeutic and statutory component. And while I emphasize transdisciplinary work, especially from your projects over the years, I can see the value in it. I can. Especially also the value of it for narrative and play therapy. And I can also relate to what you are saying and what you were doing over the years, since I was also leading a transdisciplinary team at Drakenstein Palliative Hospice and experienced the value of all of these principles and approaches firsthand, as it contributed to the person-centered, holistic development and needs of the patient, the child, and the family. And therefore, it should be an integral part of our curriculum. It should be. So thank you for emphasizing that. I was wondering though, how would this joint music making assist or contribute to the statutory component of social work? How will making music help in this context? Especially as the statutory component should lead to facts or what truth is, especially in court cases and stuff like that. And then I guess, okay, traumatic drawings as a form of art will help apply to narrate the story and contribute to facts. But this obviously would imply a different type of art than making music. And I think that is why your focus is on the arts in general. But today you just used music as an example, and I totally get it. And therefore, the longer I thought about it, I came to realize, but perhaps in this sense of the statutory component, even music might lead to traumatic healing, and to overcome adversity, and to build resilience, like a strength-based perspective, but also leads to the development of skills and empowerment to tell the story, self-confidence to narrate the story, and share the traumatic event. So again, thank you. Thank you for showing me this, Professor van der Westhuizen. I'm almost done. Another advantage of the realness of these expressions through art, such as music, in class and in a work setting, is that the expressions are not AI generated. They are not AI manufactured, but rather true expressions and individuals. for your existential change, Viktor Frankl, but also meaningful change. I would like to conclude with the following. I believe, and especially with all the deans sitting here tonight, and also the registrar, I believe the positionality of the mentioned disciplines in your paper, in the presentation here tonight, but the positionality of all these disciplines at UWC should be used to your advantage. I think UWC is favorably positioned with its Faculty of Community and Health Science and the Faculty of Arts and Humanities with the Department of Religion and Theology in that faculty to do benchmark work and become the trendsetter in a transdisciplinary qualification between these faculties and disciplines. And I believe
Thank you, Professor Björkes. I think that you've given us a lot of food for thought. You've asked very important questions. I think we're at the stage, not only in an evolution of humanity, but within academia, where transdisciplinarity is it is a change. We know that when students want to do something in the area of transdisciplinary work, we just had a case like that, and we ask, where do we locate the student? Which discipline? Does the student go into nursing? Does the student go into public health? Where do we locate the student? So, Registrar, you have your work cut out for you. So now we're going to move on to the nice part, Prof. and Westhuizen. You're going to get a nice gift from the registrar. I hope you're going to show us afterwards what it is. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to ask Prof. Suke to come and do the word of thanks. And when he's done, Dalphia, you asked me to call you, so maybe you can start making your way down here.
So ladies and gentlemen, you can agree we've got definitely a celebrity in our midst, right? Let's give her another round of applause. Prof. and Westhuizen, carry on with that jovial spirit and the innovative approaches to our academic programs. Really appreciate it. So ladies and gentlemen, like the saying goes, all things must come to an end, but I think in this case we shall say the show must go on. Yes? So ladies and gentlemen, the success of a wonderful event like this is not possible without the contribution of the following people. And I'd firstly like to thank the DVC in his absence. Then I'd like to thank the Dean of the Faculty of Community and Health Sciences, namely Professor Anita Paranagalini, and the Registrar, Dr. Nita Lawton-Wissler, and the team. I think you've been busy with us for the last 12 months, and it's been a hard job, but well done to you and the team for coordinating and helping us all. Then I'd like to thank the Program Director, Professor Michelle Payton, for her contribution this evening. Thank you. And I'd like to thank a special thank you to Professor Jacques Burke. I think your talk was really inspirational. Thank you, sir. He acted in the capacity as a respondent, and I know even that job is not an easy job because you really need to be spot on in terms of your analysis. I'd like to thank the ICS department for ensuring that the IT is on call. I think there could have been some more assistance on that side, but thank you so much for that. And also a special thank you to our marketing specialist, Delphia Mujela, for their hard work for Humanities team. Thank you, Delphia. And then the last but most least is the audience. For you here this evening, I think it's something really special to the hearts of the academics, because this is the last inaugural lecture and we really all showed up in quite a huge number. So thank you to you. And to our special guest, our guest of honor, namely Professor van der Westhuizen, thank you once again for sharing your wonderful insights into your academic journey. It is really special to see how you've transcended the various genres of music and social work. And colleagues and students, I think without this work of Professor van der Westhuizen, we won't be able to see that we can all work together in different spheres to heal, because I think healing is really needed where we are at in this world. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Prof. Suka. I'm going to ask you all to stand, and the procession will leave the room, and if you can just remain standing.
You can be seated, thank you. So, again, can I have your attention, please? Can I request families, friends, to please go for a pitch opportunity?